all together now. Shh. Oh, that's lovely. My name is Eric van der Kleij, and I'm the moderator of the Cities panel. I'm delighted to be here with this extraordinary panel. I'm going to ask them to each introduce themselves. The subject is Urban Update, Cities of the Future. They're going to introduce themselves in turn. I'm going to ask them just 30 seconds or so on who you are, what your background is relevant to this topic, and then maybe something that you're worried about or excited about in relation to the topic, of course. Please, Karen, would you start?
Hi, everyone. My name is Karen Bhatia. I'm Senior Vice President at the New York City Economic Development Corporation. I head our emerging tech background. What we do is we invest in different technologies in New York City that we want to see grow in the city for economic development purposes. Some of them are our blockchain strategy, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, virtual reality, augmented reality. And my background is I'm a capital markets attorney and I'm also an entrepreneur. So this opportunity gives me a way to meld all my backgrounds together and work on behalf of economic development in New York.
Thank you. Woosuk, would you mind handing the microphone to Woosuk? I'm going to hang on to mine. Okay. You can buddy breathe.
Hi, my name is Woosuk Chang. I'm from the Panasonic Ventures, the head of technology. I'm based on the Silicon Valley. We have looking for like a new business opportunity and also new technology, and how to technology scouting from the startups and the new tech company, and engaging to like our internal technology, or creating a new business and new product and new solution. That is my role. And my background is I'm the 20 years over like engineering side, and from the hardware and the software. And last 5 years, I joined the business development team. And I'm very like beginner for learning for business, but it was very interesting to me. And then so many of like what is our customers really looking for, and then what they have a pain point. This is a little bit like in the refreshing in my head, and then I created and supporting for the new opportunity, new solution to them.
There's no turning back once you've got the commercial bug, I can say that. But more engineers doing business is never a bad thing. Okay. Leanne, you have a microphone. Please introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, my name's Leanne Kemp. I'm the founder and CEO of Everledger, and recently the Premier appoint as the Queensland entrepreneur, the chief entrepreneur. My background's been in software development for 25 years, and Everledger began in the heart of London in 2014. We're probably best known for the work on the platform of provenance to enable the traceability of diamonds from the source of the mine right the way through to the retail network. But there's a lot more that we've done. We've just kept it secret. So we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Thank you. Heidi, welcome. Please introduce yourself. Tell us what you do.
Thank you, Eric. My name is Heidi Pease. I am the CEO and co-founder of the Los Angeles Blockchain Lab. We are a nonprofit collaboration of academia, government, and business focused on building a sustainable blockchain, and I underscore sustainable blockchain ecosystem in Southern California. Our founding partners are USC, UCLA, Caltech, UCI, City of Los Angeles, Panasonic. We worked with Lamborghini and several other large institutions in the blockchain space.
Very crypto, when Lambo. Moving on to Thomas.
I'm going to get a ride with her Lambo
I'm kidding.
tonight.
I'm kidding.
Okay?
Sorry, I couldn't resist. Thomas.
Thomas Hardjono. I'm with MIT Connection Science. I'm the CTO. Our group does a lot of research on data. We have projects on transportation and urban planning in Ashdod in Israel, Andorra, Mexico. We have projects for predicting poverty based on mobility. We have a new project helping Syrian refugees on the southern part of Turkey to get a better integrated. So this is all sort of feeds into this theme.
Okay, lots of experience. Now, the first question I'm going to ask is fairly general, but I hope it takes us into all sorts of wonderful rabbit holes to explore. It's going to be about when we think about what we talk about, the topic, it's cities of the future. We're also wanting to know how blockchain can help improve the lives of citizens or just change cities. And there are many problems to solve in cities. So the question is, what benefits blockchain solutions for your city's citizens are you most excited by? And it can be the potential. And for this one, I'm happy for a volunteer. Who would like to go first? Well done, Heidi. First in.
Sure. So one thing in Los Angeles, we don't necessarily refer to our folks in Los Angeles as citizens. We call them residents and visitors for political reasons. But a couple of things that we're very excited about. I'm going to say mobility and all of that comes with it, and second, the Olympics. So first of all, mobility. If any of you have been to Los Angeles before and driven in traffic, you know how painful of an experience it is. It is voted the world's worst traffic city. Yes, we're number one. So that's a huge concern for us, especially as we face the Olympics in 2028. So, you know, we have hundreds of thousands of we have connected street lamps. We have 500 cameras. We're collecting all of this data. We were one of the first cities, at least in the United States, to start using Waze and traffic data analytics. So we're starting to collect all of this data to help us with our mobility issues. And we're finding that the city of Los Angeles is becoming this huge data repository. And the city doesn't want to be a huge data repository. There's a lot of risk involved with that. So what are some things that we're thinking? And that's just one thing. We have also predictive policing that tracks criminals, and we keep that data. And as you can imagine, our residents are very suspicious of government. They don't necessarily trust government. So what can we do? And we're actually collaborating, the City of Los Angeles with the University of Southern California, on creating a metadata marketplace in which the government, businesses, individuals can put this data within this marketplace. It'll all be encrypted through blockchain. And then later, that data can be accessed. If it's an individual, we would be monetized, but can be accessed for research to help improve city services, analytics, and so forth. So that's one thing we're really excited about. And then as it relates to the Olympics, can we create a token? I mean, these are some creative ideas that we're talking about now. A token that might represent all of the currencies that are exchanged, or staying at a hotel, or transportation, or security. So some fun things down the road.
Plenty to be getting on with there. I mean, just your answer, you could run a whole conference on some of the issues raised. I think the privacy ones, actually, I wouldn't mind coming back to Thomas, to you about the privacy ones at this point.
So one of the big issues is that we know that society needs data. We've got this data-driven society, and I mean everybody. I mean governments, companies, municipalities, localities. They all need data, and so this brings into question this data access problem and privacy. So in one of our projects is called Open Algorithms. We spoke about it at length yesterday at our day-long event. And in Open Algorithms, we have a number of principles. The first one being that you move the algorithm to the data repository. So you never ship around data. So we're trying to avoid another Equifax, if people know what I'm referring to. And it's significant that last week, Tim Cook mentioned the shadow economy for data, right? It's like, whoa, okay. So, and then subsequently, if you guys are following the thread, AT&T and Sprint said we're no longer going to be selling, call data records to, quote, third parties. And there was a specific company that I will not name who was, targeted. But so in that model, the idea that is the data stays at the repository. So let's say, the municipality had data about citizens, you would send the algorithms there. Now, so you retain privacy, and secondly, the algorithms have to be vetted by experts to be free from bias, because there is no such thing as unbiased data. Raw data is an oxymoron. All data is biased, and algorithms have unintended effect. Let me not the blockchain bit. So once you do that, the next step is, could we codify the algorithms as smart contracts and just standardize them, so that if anyone wants to run algorithm number 101 on blockchain somewhere, so long as you feed it with money, it's going to execute, and it's going to touch the right endpoints, the right data, and give you the answer. So that's kind of truly opening up the market, the data market, without moving the data, and therefore protecting the privacy of the citizens whose data in the repository.
Thank you. I'm going to come to you, Karen. I mean, no pressure, but you're kind of responsible for one of the most important cities in the world, economic development. When you think about what you're doing and what Thomas just said about privacy and how you address that, and the data that you are custodian of on behalf of not citizens but residents and what was it? Visitors. What do you think about with that, and how do you address this?
So there are three primary ways in New York right now that we deal with data. The first one is New York City has an open data law. So when it comes to New York City services, a whole host of them, whether it's transportation services, sanitation services, across the board, it's mandated that a number of these data sets are actually published openly. So you can go onto the Mayor's Office of Data Analytics, and there are huge data sets that are there, and they're updated on a regular basis. So that's one way in which we have data and access to the public. The second way that I wanted to focus on is actually an initiative that we're working on right now at the Economic Development Corporation, and that is we're trying to balance how do we foster innovation but at the same time protect data privacy, have security measures in place as well. And we're looking at different mechanisms, whether it's through blockchain, whether it's through secure multi-party computation, whether it's through data trusts. Are there mechanisms that are repeatable and scalable where the city could help foment or kind of seed where it's public-private partnerships, depending on whatever the type of use case or that particular vertical is? Is it between private sector itself, where they see the value add in sharing their data? That's actually an initiative that we're working on right now, is to try to figure out ways in which we could create governance structures and leverage technology and legal structures in a way that helps facilitate these types of data collaboratives. The other area that I wanted to mention too is actually through the mayor's office. The city council passed a law that required a council put together called the Automated Decision Systems Task Force. And this is the first in the nation, and it's actually pretty remarkable. There's a committee of people that are meeting across a variety of sectors, public, private, academic institutions, and they're going in through systematically what is the process by which the city should evaluate how data is being collected, stored, who is it being collected from, how is it being utilized, and what is the process by which they're going to be following, whether it comes to predictive policing, whether it comes to sentencing, however it's being utilized, making sure that there's an ethical framework and guardrails around how we use this data and for what purpose.
Actually, I would love to come back and discuss sentencing and restoration, because if stuff is immutable, there's no chance of ever restoring yourself to society. So it's a challenge, I think, that we have to think about. Leanne, I'd like to ask you something else, if I can, just slightly different. Actually, I don't think people realize I'm a bit of a fanboy, have been of the company Everledger ever since you set it up, solving some serious problems, challenging some serious traditional industries. But I don't know if you know, but Everledger was voted by the World Economic Forum as the most promising tech startup last year, against Uber, Airbnb, Spotify. So awesome job there. But now you've been appointed by Queensland as the chief entrepreneur. What is that?
Well, it helps with my Tinder profile. I can give you the tip. But,
wow.
Look, it's an honorary appointment by the Premier of Queensland, and it sits under the Minister of Innovation. And collectively, the state has recognised that 10 years ago we had some pretty smart people, and the government has recognised that it's about time we pulled our socks up and realised what the future possible can be, and invest heavily in infrastructure, both hard and soft. So under my office, under the Ministers of Innovation, we have 600 million in funding that has gone towards the creation of an ecosystem of startups and scale-ups to create hard infrastructure so that we can bring accelerator programs and VCs. And actually a part of my appointment is to awaken the government and to ensure that they understand the responsibility that they have at an incumbent level to bring entrepreneurship within the government framework. And so that's a part of my mechanism.
But I also know that you're very well qualified to answer some of the technical questions about things like privacy.
I am a nerd, yes.
Yeah, we love it. More for the Tinder profile. but the question is on privacy. There are some extraordinary technologies that blockchain has enabled. Zero-knowledge proofs, for example, that could help us an awful lot in deploying privacy, especially with GDPR in Europe and things like that. How do you even begin to teach the traditional administrations about this kind of stuff, when actually only very recently all this stuff was the money launderer's weapon of choice?
Yeah, look, there's something in a juxtaposition between using, technology that was in the black markets and blood diamonds for good, for purpose, which was really at the very core of Everledger, the entire mobility of our thoughts into action. At a government level, the reality is that most Australians have come from criminal ships out of the UK, so we have a propensity towards understanding.
Very generous we are.
Yeah. So we're not stealing bread anymore. But the reality is, and in very serious tone now, there is a concern across any market, and that is related to fraud. So, this is a cost. It's a honeycomb effect of value. And when we even think about insurance and fraud-related matters, whether it be motor vehicle insurance, these are costs to every single citizen on the planet and every single resident within a state. And I think that governments, of course, need to have an education around digitisation and even understanding the complexities of these technologies. But beyond that, the purpose of government is to create a livable space, a livable city, and to ensure that the preservation of that reaches beyond the tenure of their ministerial role and look forward to next generation. So, there's certainly a lot of work in the understanding the education. From my perspective, we start with a Dr. Seuss book of the cat sat on the mat, and that often helps.
That's terrific. Except that what you do, and just so everyone's clear, is voluntary, right? It's an honorary role. So you have to balance that against work.
It is an honorary role, which of course I gladly accepted because I want to be the change that I want to see in the world. So for me, I certainly find balance, and balance to me is not sitting on a seesaw that's 50-50. To be honest with you, balance is about 95%. So, but I do balance my responsibilities between the World Economic Forum and of course the chief entrepreneur and Everledger, because we're kicking ass and taking names.
Yeah, okay, we'll come back to that. That's awesome. Woosuk, if there was a company that you could describe as kicking ass and taking names in the IoT space, I think it's probably the first time Panasonic's been described in that loving way. But in the when I asked you in the preparation for one or two examples, you gave me about 6 solid examples. I don't know which one to pick. Which one excites you the most of how Panasonic is helping with the adoption of blockchain for good for society?
Good question. Yeah.
Surprising for me, but go for it.
Frankly, like in the more like in the, I heard that in the like a government kind of approaching, and pretty much similar like in the big company too. Big corporation is we trying to pushing to the blockchain technology to the adapt to the internal or existing solutions. Yeah, the blockchain is a little bit different. The reason, so some of like in the blockchain concept is pretty much new things, and also technology-wise need more technical understanding needed for the like high-level people. That means the any other just tangible like in technology we can easy to just push back, and then the push going forward is possible. But a little bit like a blockchain case is the conceptual-wise kind of the big, and then also like a little bit like in the not clearly the tangible, I cannot get the like hanging for that. So this means that when I trying to push into some project, little bit hard. But even though in our team role, how to is the like unclear things is to making more visible things. This is my team role. So and one of a kind of a small example, Panasonic is more like a B2B oriented company. So I working like in the 2 years is the hospitality area. In the hospitality, one of our customer in the Las Vegas, there is the MGM. MGM, as you know, many people is the MGM or MGM Grand Hotel itself. But MGM Resort has the lot of hotels owned by the Las Vegas area. So I'm working with one of our sustainability team. So they are very much like in the struggling to kind of leftover food. So many
What's that again?
leftover food.
So waste food.
Yeah, exactly, like wasting food. So after banquet finish, the all food is just going to trash. So tons of food left over. So they trying to reduce this is leftover food cost. So yeah, sometimes the big hotels is the wasting money is 1 million per year. So they trying to reduce this one, and then our team is almost 2 years is work together, and then we providing the more like data analytics and how to reduce your food wasting. So this is not just only like food wasting. This is the sustainability team. They're trying to pushing this leftover food is providing the food bank. So already like in the Las Vegas, a lot of hotels, they are doing like this way, but here is something problem. All the like a chef, and they hesitating to food is move out to their hotel. So this is the kind of like a food poisoning, and they cannot control after out of the
Safety
food.
reasons, right?
Exactly. So and then this time is even they trying to providing the food to food bank is the very kind of like in the scary part of things. So how actually control this food is the delivering to end of the like more like in the food needed people. So this is think about it like blockchain technology, and then where is this food comes, and also like this food is how much we can sustaining for the eating. So this kind of things is trying to make in the one of blockchain is will be helpful to that direction. And small like another example is we are working with the more like energy management side. So we are providing the several like energy management tools, and then the energy kind of battery and the solar panel. This is also Panasonic providing that. So we are considering to this type of like energy harvesting the platform, how to providing to each of the homeowners. Homeowners is they are creating charging and then creation for their energy, and how to contribution to all the electric vehicle or any other systems.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
A couple of examples. I know you probably have more, and I'll come back to you on this. I suppose that's the next question. These are great examples of a company doing this. Where are the best examples of this? And also, what are the barriers that we're going to face as society to, helping bring blockchain into making society better? Thomas, you want to take that one first?
So maybe I should illustrate it with an example. So this is actually another project offshoot a main project. So we have a project going on with the central government of Beijing, and the topic is diversity. So here's an interesting urban planning problem. So our research has indicated that if you have a square mile of an area, the more diverse activities you have there, the higher GDP output over a longer period of time of not just that half square mile, but like 5 square miles. So what is diversity? And it's not just racial diversity, identity diversity, it's also the businesses diversity, and where the diversity of the origins where people live, where they come to that area, right? So that was the main project. So an offshoot that ended up dealing with actually a type of currency is one that we're doing right now with Nomura in Japan. So Japan has this issue of aging, and a number of villages are basically becoming emptied out, right? And so it's an asset. And so we were saying, look, well, it's a beautiful village, 500 years old, wooden buildings everywhere, fantastic. It's an asset. So how do you bring tourism, and how do you bring young people and businesses, diverse businesses into that area, so that you sort of kickstart basically the local economy? And so one of the thoughts is, well, could we have some kind of a currency, cryptocurrency, that would be activated when it fulfilled a number of conditions, such as if Heidi and I agree that we're going to meet in this village at a particular date, it would only activate if our mobile device location reports are correct, and that we're within vicinity, that you and I are meeting at a particular coffee shop in that village. It's triangular think, I mean, it doesn't have to be a triangle, it could be more people, but ideas like that, is very promising because it's actually, concrete, it's doable. We're going to do a POC maybe just to see, but to address your question, it's difficult to explain this to municipalities. I'll be quite. If you talk about Southern California, it's difficult to explain this to municipalities because it's just something they sort of don't see every day, right? And they usually start with a question like, "What's a blockchain?" Right. So the level of discussion when that happens.
So education's an important part of it. Now, I know that Leanne isn't a big name dropper, but a couple of hours ago when you were hanging out with Uncle Al Gore. What were you chatting about?
Oh my goodness. Well, that was after I finished with David Attenborough. So look, we were talking. I mean, it's certainly. I was with Al Gore a number of months ago with the United Nations General Assembly. The reality of the world as it stands today is sustainability and the reduction of waste is only 1/100th of a step as to where we have to take a leap. So we really have to take the first man on the moon leap forward. There's already research that is out now in the space of the world that, of course, time is ticking, and in no short of 12 years there is a turning point that can't be turned back. And I think that the seriousness of this hasn't really hit in the tactile and conscious mind of many of us. And so we have been in deep conversations, and in fact, proudly, as the chief entrepreneur, we have Al Gore coming to Queensland in June. So I'm very excited about that, because the reality is we have one of the 12 wonders of the world, which is the Great Barrier Reef. And sadly, it's sad. And, we have a number of concerns there, whether it be plastics in oceans. And what can we do? What can we do about that at the very sort of systemic level of not just technology, but within government and a consciousness when it comes to citizens? So this is really what the conversation was about,
I like
saving the world.
Yes, please do respond.
So I wanted to tell you a little bit about what we're doing in New York when it comes to these potential pilot use cases dealing with blockchain. So one of the biggest barriers, or I should say it's kind of twofold, it's two sides of the same coin, and it goes back to education. Part of it is education towards government, whether it's municipal, state, federal government, about what blockchain is and where it could be a potential solution, a meaningful solution. And I think on the flip side, it's also educating the public about what blockchain is, dispelling myths about confusions, concerning or Bitcoin and blockchain, all sorts of nefarious activities that are associated with it as well. So what we're doing in New York is, as I had mentioned earlier, we have an open data law, and we have open data through the Mayor's Office of Data Analytics. And in 2009, we hosted a competition called New York City Big Apps. And this was to galvanize interest in open data and help people better learn how you can have applications that are built off of this open data. What we're doing this year is we're actually using New York City Big Apps for blockchain. So it's going to start off first by educating government, anybody in government who's interested in learning more about blockchain. So it is Blockchain 101, to Thomas's point. Our first one is going to be on January 30th. That's going to be the first of a series of these type of Blockchain 101s that we're hosting. And it's going to be, open to anybody who's interested in government learning more about this. We want to have participation from whether it's startups who are working on really interesting projects that could be applicable to government, as well as larger corporates or whoever else from academia who would be interested. But the second part of this is not only the education aspect, is working closely with these municipal governments in particular to identify what are some challenge areas that they have where blockchain could be a meaningful solution and where it wouldn't be a meaningful solution. In the areas where they potentially are meaningful solutions, we're going to hold a competition around them, and the goal is that ultimately we want to have pilot use cases around those. So I have some in mind that are particularly some of my favorites that I'm interested in, but we also realize that in addition to the education, it's also buy-in from these agencies. What agencies have internal champions where they would actually be willing to pilot out some of these
resources,
solutions?
or you'll give them the resources if they win.
That's right. So the goal is actually getting that internal kind of grassroots organizing within these agencies for them to bubble up what are some areas where blockchain could be used, and having them be internal champions where potential pilots can come from them.
I'd like to, you in the prep, you all gave me too many topics that I want to talk about, but Heidi, Can we talk about cannabis? Or actually, the 3Ms. Explain what the 3Ms are and what are the
Sure.
challenges around cannabis in
Sure.
LA.
So normally when somebody says Los Angeles, everybody thinks movie stars, right? So that would be one of the M's. But actually, indeed, and we love our movie stars, we love our musicians, we love the entertainment industry. But in reality, Los Angeles, that's maybe the 6th economic contributor to Southern California. The number 1 economic contributor is manufacturing. And then you can also, so manufacturing, mobility, and I'm going to say the 3rd that we're anticipating is marijuana. And I think we're bringing this up because this is a use case that we're looking at today. In fact, if anybody in the room has an idea, please let me know. So the state of California recently passed marijuana as recreational, and but in the United States, federally, it's still illegal. What that does is, if you are a marijuana grower, distributor, seller, anything to do with marijuana, you are breaking the law federally, which means you cannot get a bank account and you cannot get insurance. So you have to transact in cash. So the city of Los Angeles and other cities, we want to tax that, right? All this new revenue we want to tax. But we're getting a smaller portion in our fees and licenses and our taxes than we probably should, because we're getting it in cash. That's number 1. Number 2, the cash that we do receive at any given day, if you walk to City Hall, the registrar's office is sitting on $100,000, $200,000 of cash. And that's a lot of risk. So the city said, what can we do today to use blockchain to solve that? So we're looking at some creative things. I mean, somebody said, you need to come up with a bank of marijuana or a bank of California, whatever. But that's just one of
And
the
I like the open
ends.
challenge to the community. Any ideas about marijuana, cannabis? Go to Heidi.
So Heidi said yesterday, Southern California wants to succeed from the United States. Is that still true?
That just might be me. So I don't want to speak on behalf of the city.
Don't worry. Honestly, don't worry. If you don't have an active government for 6 months, then the UK gets America back. No worries. Just saying. Thomas, I'd like to ask you different questions. I'd like to ask you a question about, well, actually, a couple of projects that are at scale, because that's hard to do, right? Innovation is possible in smaller bites and doses. But the capability as a company that Panasonic brings is scale. Can you tell us about some of the bigger projects that you're boldly going forward with at the moment?
Actually, like in the how Panasonic is we are expanding to the like our small project in the going to like a real business. So Panasonic is the very old company and over 100 years company. So in our most of things, the business is the hardware oriented company. So that means like just a one-time sell and to get the money, it's okay. Yeah, we don't care any other like next round we can provide new device. So this is we did like a lot of years this one, but totally like in the current change it in the software business. So we are trying to push into that direction, software business, but still the software business is a little bit hard. The reason is although like this is internal cultural change, we need that, and we're trying to kind of like a brainwashing. Still, we are working, on that too. But we have like, but a lot of our big customer still kind of trust Panasonic can providing new solution or new technology. So and whenever we meet like our customer, here is the interesting thing. They love to new technology and they love to the startups, but they're a little bit hard to trust to startup. The reason, after some solution providing to their store, and then who actually like, this is distribution all in the world. And then who actually like in the maintenance. So it's totally different story. So in that case is the Panasonic, we kind of like evaluation startups technology, and then this is how to launching well with the Panasonic. So one of a small example, my role is I try every day. I met the 5 to 10 startups, and then I understanding their technology and their new business. After that, this is very like the workable and the worthwhile, and I'm trying to kind of like a POC project with them, in 3 to 6 months, and this is totally like a paid project. After that, I like to show to this solution to our customer, and then if this is very like it. And then who is backup for that? Oh, Panasonic. Okay, I trust that. Okay, how about extending our 10 more store? So at that moment, so our inviting to our internal Panasonic business people. You'll see this works well. Take over. And then at that moment, so, mostly like startups, yeah, we did a good job for you. And then we need more money, we need more expanding. So that is, I like to invite our investment team. So and then they think about it, how we go over next round. This is kind of like in the something business evaluation, technical evaluation, and also like in the funding kind of evaluation. These three of things is we can make more next round of business.
That's very cool. Helping young companies punch above their weight is always a good thing to do. Please remember to be very fair to the startups. We've run many accelerators, and the important thing is the business people are always great, but it's usually the legal team that needs a little slap, usually. So encouragement, sorry. Before we get onto the home straight, I'm just going to say that I am going to open up for some questions, but I don't think we've got a roving microphone, so I will sprint over to you and wave the microphone at you if you have a question. Or, excuse me, in this case, Thomas is going to be our microphone ninja. Would you mind saying your question if you have one, and saying your name and then your question, please?
Thank you, Thomas. I'm a bit of fish out of water here in Davos. I would love to speak to Heidi because I head up the World Olympians Association, responsible for the 120,000 living Olympians, as an army to mobilise against help with social cohesion and development. So maybe we can have a chat after. But so I'm one of those that Thomas would say, what's blockchain? So really, my question to you is how is this, Leanne, because I'm from Brisbane, where Leanne's from, how is this going to help Queensland and Brisbane's bid for the 2032 Olympic Games?
Hey!
Dropping it on me. This is not
Hang on to the microphone for now. There may be another one. Good one.
She didn't introduce herself. So her name is Natalie Cook, 5 times Olympian, gold medalist and bronze medalist for Australia. The first female athlete that actually achieved this status rise, and I'm the first female chief entrepreneur. Nat, that is a very good question. I think if we look at the dark side of the Olympics to a certain extent, certainly there's an onset of fraud when it comes to credentials and credential management, and we saw that at the Commonwealth Games more recently, even around merchandise. And so how can we preserve the intellectual property of brands, I think is something that is very important and close to Everledger because of the work that we do with the luxury goods space. And beyond that, I think you touched on it, the tokenization of value and where can that go? And I certainly think that there's an incredible amount of wealth that's created by events like even the World Economic Forum and the Olympics and the Commonwealth Games. And how can we understand the distribution of that wealth in a better way where communities can thrive? And yet again, we can start to, seed value that we can see and it can show up in the world at the next games or next generation. So I think that's a short answer to a long question. Now go, you've got boots. Now go run. You're an athlete. You can move this mic around.
Any other questions for this extraordinary panel? If you want to know the future of cities or any of the secret projects they're working on.
Small things is the next year is the 2020 Tokyo Olympic. Yeah, right? And,
Hey!
It's Panasonic is the Olympic partner.
She's a good swimmer too, mate. She'll swim across.
Yeah. So actually, we're trying to building the Tokyo City be a smart. So this is very interesting things too. And then still Panasonic is helping to the lot of a new type of the solutions. And based on the Olympic is the very good presence for Panasonic too. Yeah.
I want to ask about that because having run one of the most successful smart city technology accelerators that's ever been run, humility out the door because it was awesome. The biggest challenge was getting the supply chain to adopt the innovation so that they became part of the products and services, even with the driver of the sponsor being their customer. How do we fix that? Is anybody got any ideas? I mean, that's a tough one, right?
I mean, I can talk to the reason why the diamond industry sort of adopted blockchain so rapidly, and it's not really first to market, it's always first to scale. So with some contractual certainty, Everledger knows will represent 10% of the entire global trade of certified diamonds on our platform this year. And there are a number of reasons why we chose that industry and why we scaled so quickly, and it wasn't actually the technology. It was all the reasons why the industry has suffered its own fate to a certain extent. Firstly, synthetic diamonds are now gem quality standards and are peppering across the supply chain. Secondly, that in the year 2000, the Kimberley process created the Kimberley process itself, which is a 3-step validation system. But more importantly, that was a United Nations construct that brought together public-private partnerships and NGOs and disciplined that they meet 2 times a year, every year, and have done for the past 15 years. So unlike use cases that you see in financial services where we try to bring together in the early stages, 2015, when R3 came into the market to create a consortium, they spent an incredible amount of time trying to teach kids to play nicely together in the sandpit. So the diamond industry had already suffered that fate with Leonardo DiCaprio's Blood Diamond movie, which of course everyone remembers. So the adoption across supply chain is really about either 2 things. It's a tectonic plate shift. It's a realization that the world is going to end for them, that the value that was hyper consolidated, whether it be the large mining companies or even some of the retailers, that's changing. There's this glacial melt in industry. And then, of course, it's about the timing when the technology is maturing and the timing where the problems are so sufficiently large that actually just the collection of the minds and the thoughts will not solve that problem. So you have to think about leapfrogging, which is really where it comes in. And not all supply chains will have the same dynamic.
Yes, thank you so much. I absolutely agree that I love this collaboration. You need to have the actual businesses, government, and academia involved. And that's something I'll just speak on behalf of the city of Los Angeles right now. We were talking about blockchain and where can we start to use it. And they basically came right out and said, we're not going to look backward. We can't do anything that's disruptive. We're very systems oriented. It's just problematic. But what we can do is look forward. So if there's anything completely innovative, like events that come to us, like the Olympics in 2028, then we can think about ingenious ideas. Or what do we do now with these small manned air vehicles, the drones? That's a big concern in the city of Los Angeles with a lot of our flight path, and how can we use blockchain? Or these new innovative services. So really that's from that perspective, but it's very critical, and the city is aware of this, that we bring in at least those 3 parties. Academia, because they're so research driven, government, and businesses, because businesses have the pulse on the people. And then the other thing, just real quickly, is if there's a very simple proof of concept that they can extrapolate from. So we are building within Los Angeles the country's largest manufactured community. There's 26,000 homes that are being built. And the EPA for the state of California gave approval to the developer to do that only if the developer agreed on 0 net emissions. And of course, yes, right? Of course, being a developer, you're going to agree to it. But now here's the question of how. How is that going to happen? And so, yes, now we've got this. We're not going to turn down this multi-billion-dollar opportunity. And so now it's time to be creative.
One more question quickly. Your name and the question, please.
Yes, my name is Vinicius. I'm here with Storm Team.
Fabulous name, Vinicius.
Thank you. And my question is how to join everything of this in the agriculture. I'm from Brazil, and in Brazil the agriculture is very centralized, and I'm also Olympic athlete. Unfortunately, not
really?
In the same level of our idol here, but and I play water polo.
Wow.
And I need to know more about this, how to join decentralization in the agriculture.
Vinicius, I don't normally do this, but as you're an Olympic athlete, do you have an idea you'd like to share?
For sure, I have
Go
a
for
lot,
it.
but I think they not have time.
No, this is your moment, man. Go for it. Give us your pitch. What do you do, Vinicius?
I work with agriculture. I'm trying to leave the monocultural farms as sugarcane in agroforests.
Amazing.
How to give more, production, more in the same space of land.
Are you raising money?
Sorry?
Are you raising money?
No,
Oh, wonderful.
no,
Almost the right answer. Try again.
I don't. I need knowledge. I need knowledge. You know, some Swiss companies are very strong in my country. You know, so agriculture is a very important thing. Brazil can support and support. I was 2 days ago in Bahia, and cacao.
Yes.
Do the same flight.
Yeah.
And we eat good chocolates here.
Thank you. Well, if you're in search of knowledge, you've certainly come to the right place at the GBBC. So anybody has ideas of how to solve this for agriculture, go and see Vinicius. I'm sorry, we probably don't have much more time. I do want to actually ask for a quick prediction from the panel, a fairly quick one, maybe a 2 or 3 word prediction for either 2019 or 2 or 3 years on. Go for it, Karen.
So there are 2 things that I wanted to say. One is the importance of inclusivity when we're thinking about governance structures around blockchain and being very deliberate about that. That's an area where I don't know if it's as much prediction as I think it's a mandate. It's something that we all must consider. The second aspect is an area when we're thinking about proofs of concepts, especially on the city level and the future of cities. I think that it has to be something that is kind of a low-hanging fruit, but that demonstrates meaning to the public so that they're able to see what the value out of blockchain is. And I think that's going to be imperative in order to have this move forward.
Definitely. Thank you. Thomas.
So last 2-3 years is the most of our cooperation partner. They are trying to understanding the blockchain. And then some people and some company understanding they are trying to building by themselves. After that, from last year, they realized that this is not going to work well. And then, so big company providing the blockchain platform and service on the cloud. So at this time, more about the worldwide corporations, they realize that. So we need something, tangible, some activity and business application developed, they trying to that. So a little bit like in the how to exposing this time, but this pilot project is a lot of pilot project working on. Definitely like supply chain, one of a very big fan of like blockchain, and also retail, and also like hospitality, new entertainment system. Big company trying to move in a little bit under the sink, but they kinds of coming out in this year. So hopefully some big jumping kind of company is something show on this year, and then trying to see what they have a moving called right business.
I also might want to ask you the questions about your involvement in the Gigafactory project, but I'm afraid we don't have time. I might ask you in the margins because that's pretty amazing.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing. Leanne, go for it.
So I think in the next year to 2 years, we'll see breakthroughs and breakdowns in so much that, look, a lot of these ideas have to stand on their own 2 feet with economic modelling. It's not necessarily going to be the challenge of the technology, because I believe that the components of the technology will stand on its own. We'll be able to solve for the issues technically around interoperability, and even some of the cryptographic sequencing will mature and improve. And it'll be those breakthroughs and breakdowns where the economic models don't stand up, and so therefore some companies and startups and SMEs won't be able to survive and thrive. But those that do break out will absolutely underpin the movement when it comes to conscious consumerism and, the network of trust that is, of course, upon us in all sorts of, industries.
Thank you. Heidi.
Sure. So I'm only going to speak to Southern California, my prediction. And I'm going to echo a little bit about what Karen said. First of all, the innovation is probably going to happen on the low-hanging fruit. I don't see in the next 2 to 3 years major overhaul on any of the municipal functions that we have in LA in particular, because there's just too much red tape. But we will see innovation, low-hanging fruit, and events, major events that come to us, like the Olympics, like marijuana, and so forth.
All in the same sentence.
In the same sentence, yes. Yes, but again, this innovation cannot happen without the collaboration of the academia, government, and business to really push that forward.
And startups and entrepreneurs.
Absolutely,
just
that's
the
what I meant.
chief's
Yes,
gotta-
yes, absolutely. The startups, entrepreneurs, absolutely.
And Thomas, if you don't mind being Woosuk for a moment.
Very quick. So I think it would be the Uberization of the service industry. So the gig economy, meaning beyond Uber drivers, the nurses, qualified nurses, hotel workers.
Fantastic. My own prediction is an Uber-like, personalized, completely anonymous marijuana drone delivery service. Please put your hands together and thank my amazing panel. I was joking. Amazing panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you.